Welcome, everyone, to China True Story. I'm Leo, and I'll be guiding you through today's story.
And I'm Sophie.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into a really chilling case from Inner Mongolia back in 2005. It's often called the silent horror.
It's a case that's just deeply disturbing, not just for the sheer brutality, but also for what happened after the initial crime. It really terrified even seasoned police officers.
Yeah, there was a secondary death that's just shocking. So our mission today is to unpack the details from the sources we have, trace how the investigation unfolded, and understand the impact it left behind.
And it's important to set the tone here. This isn't an easy story. The psychological toll was immense, and solving it in such a remote region presented, well, some unique challenges.
Let's start with that psychological impact, because it jumps right out from the case files. There's this quote from Deputy Chief Song, years later, his voice apparently still trembling.
Oh, I remember reading that. It's powerful.
He said, "Back then I couldn't bring myself to open my front door. I'd just stand there, frozen, afraid that if I stepped inside, I'd see it again."
Gosh, that really says it all, doesn't it? The trauma sticking with him for so long.
Absolutely. And the reports mention other officers struggling too couldn't sleep, actively avoiding their own homes. It really speaks to how inhuman the scene must have been.
It's vicarious trauma, classic case. Their safe space, their home, becomes contaminated by the horror they witness.
And the whole nightmare, it didn't even start with the police finding the scene. It started with a local worker, Lao Wang. He looked after the boiler at the bathhouse.
Right, just an ordinary guy trying to get paid.
Exactly. It's July 4th, 2005. He hadn't been paid for 2 months, couldn't reach the owner, Peng Yulian, on her phone. So he figures, okay, I'll just go see her. She was living temporarily in the back of the bathhouse.
It's a routine thing, heading over there. He had no idea what he was walking into.
None at all. He gets there. The door's slightly open. He knocks, calls out her name. Nothing. Silence. So he pushes the door open wider, steps into this cluttered living area, boxes, old stuff everywhere. Calls out again. Still silence.
Okay.
Then he sees the bedroom door, also slightly ajar. He hesitates for a moment, then pushes it open.
And that's the moment everything changes for him.
Instantly, the floor. It's just covered in blood. There's a woman lying naked on the bed, part of her body hanging off the edge. And the smell. He said it was that thick metallic smell of blood.
Oh, God.
He apparently just froze, legs buckling. But then maybe some tiny hope kicked in. He steps closer, reaches out, lifts the blanket covering her face. The woman had no head.
Oh, my God, no.
He just collapsed. The shock completely overwhelmed him, but wasn't even over. As he's stumbling backwards, trying to get away, his hand hits the floor, his foot knocks something. Something round, soft, heavy.
Don't tell me.
He turns. It's the head. Peng Yulian's head. Eyes wide open, just staring. Frozen in maybe a scream, maybe an accusation.
Yeah.
It's horrifying to even describe.
I can't even imagine. Just finding the body is one thing, but then that direct contact, it's unimaginable terror.
The report says he made this awful, inhuman sound. Scrambled out, clawing his way to the door, got outside, somehow managed to fumble for his phone, made one call, and then collapsed right there by the road.
And the police found him.
Yeah, found him barely breathing.
Right.
Rushed him to the hospital, but it was too late.
So
He died. Cause of death? Cardiac arrest due to extreme psychological shock. Literally frightened to death by what he saw.
That's incredibly rare. It just underscores the sheer horror of that scene the police then had to walk into.
Exactly. And the location itself played a role, didn't it? This bathhouse wasn't exactly downtown.
No, not at all. The sources describe it as being on the outskirts of Beheaded Township, Ulagai Administrative District. Pretty isolated, surrounded by flat plains. It used to be a pigsty, apparently, then converted. Small place, just 3 guest rooms, and the owner, Peng Yulian, lived in one.
Right, this remote setting. Ulagai itself is huge, like 5,000 square kilometers, but only about 20,000 people, almost half nomadic. Very quiet, slow pace of life, usually.
Which makes a crime like this even more shocking for the community.
And Peng Yulian, the victim. The reports paint a picture or two. She was 39, divorced, known locally for being quite beautiful, but also strong, independent.
Ran the bathhouse, which was also like a small 24-hour inn all by herself, trying to build a future for her son.
Yeah, her son was almost 10, but he was away studying somewhere else, so she was alone there.
And tragically, it seems she knew she was vulnerable. The witness statements mentioned she told a friend just days before she felt unsafe living and working there alone. A real premonition.
That's heartbreaking. And adds another layer of tragedy. There was even a friend who tried to visit her after she was likely killed.
Oh, right. The night of July 4th.
Yeah, he drove by, called her phone, no answer, saw her light was on in the room, waited a bit, then just left, figuring maybe she had company or something. He had no clue she was already dead inside. The estimated time of death was actually July 2nd.
God, imagine finding that out later, the what-ifs.
So the police finally arrive, process the scene. What did the forensics find? It was described as inhuman.
Utterly brutal. Peng Yulian was found naked in her bedroom, mutilated. The cause of death was strangulation, with a telephone wire. Time of death estimated around 9 p.m., July 2nd.
But the killer didn't stop there.
No, this is where it gets even more disturbing. After strangling her, the killer went to the kitchen, got a knife, and decapitated her. And then violated her body post-mortem.
Post-mortem. So after she was already dead.
Yes, and the lack of any defensive wounds, no bruises, no scratches, no DNA under her fingernails confirmed this. It wasn't part of a struggle. It was something done after she was helpless, already deceased. That detail, the reports say, visibly shook even the veteran officers.
I can believe it. It suggests a different kind of depravity, doesn't it? Not just rage, but something colder.
Exactly. Cold and calculated. They found the knife in the kitchen, slightly chipped, faint bloodstains. Her drawers and cabinets were ransacked, suggesting robbery.
But other clues pointed elsewhere,
Yeah.
right? The footprints.
Right. Muddy, incomplete footprints look like worn-out shoes, suggesting maybe a laborer, someone strong but likely poor, and crucially, a partial fingerprint on the telephone cord used for strangulation.
A partial print, so maybe not planned, more impulsive.
That's what it suggested. An opportunistic, incredibly brutal crime. But the motive was still murky. Robbery. Why kill her so viciously, then rob her? Why at 9 p.m.? The initial theory was maybe assault, then murder to silence her, followed by a search for cash.
So let's recap the clues they had initially. Footprints, partial fingerprint, semen, which gave them blood type B, and this odd detail about underwear.
Ah, yes, that became critical later. Her underwear was missing from the scene, but another piece was found outside, about 20 meters away, wet in the mud.
Which suggests what? A fetish? A kind of signature?
Possibly both. It added another layer to the potential profile, so putting it all together.
Right.
Male, probably 20 to 45, lower education, manual labor, possibly priors for theft or sexual offenses, blood type B, and this disturbing interest in women's underwear.
Okay, seems like a decent starting point. But then came the challenges of investigating in Ulagai.
Huge challenges. As we said, remote area. Critically, no local DNA lab. Every sample, blood, semen, everything had to be physically taken to Beijing for testing.
By hand, wow. How long did that take?
Month, potentially, for results on each batch. In a murder case, that kind of delay is just crippling. You lose momentum, evidence degrades, memories fade.
And the manpower issue.
Tiny police force for a massive area. The documents say only 6 officers were available for this case, covering over 5,000 square kilometers. Less than 20,000 people, but spread out.
6 officers, that's unbelievable.
They did their best, screened over 500 suspects, collected and sent hundreds of blood samples. But nothing. No match, no arrest.
So the case just went cold. For 5 years.
5 long years. And the public, understandably frustrated, started to mock the police. There were reports of people saying things like, "You expect them to solve this, might as well train a dog."
Ouch. That must have been crushing for the investigators.
Absolutely devastating. They felt powerless. The case remained a dark cloud over the community.
Until 2010. What happened then? The materials mention a turning point.
A really significant one. A boy, 15 years old, walks into the police station, quiet, nervous, and he asks the question that changes everything. "Have you caught the man who killed my mother?"
Peng Yulian's son.
Yes. Now older, seeking answers. That moment, just his presence and his question, it reignited the whole thing. It made it personal again, not just a cold file.
So it got upgraded.
Upgraded to the provincial level, more resources, fresh eyes, and they started looking at the details again, particularly that stolen underwear.
Right, the potential signature.
Exactly. The investigators had this chilling thought. Someone who does that during a murder, they're probably not going to stop that behavior. They might do it again, even in smaller crimes.
So they changed tactics.
They did, a strategic shift. They started meticulously combing through all recent theft and sexual offense reports, looking specifically for any mention of stolen underwear or similar fetishes.
And did they find anything?
They found a theft case from November 2006. A man named Wang Lian reported about 7,300 yuan stolen from his home. What was weird was his watchdog, supposedly fierce, didn't bark at all.
Suggesting the thief knew the dog. Or knew the property layout very well.
Precisely. It implied familiarity. The investigation back in 2006 led them to a former employee of Wang Lian, a man named Li Xiaoquan, born in 1982.
Okay, Li Xiaoquan. Did he have a record?
He did, specifically involving Wang Lian. Police records showed that in September 2006, Wang Lian had caught Li stealing sheep from his ranch and fired him. Just a month later, Li broke back in and stole the cash.
So he was caught for that theft?
Yes. Arrested, confessed to the theft, got a 1-year sentence, suspended for 2 years. Standard procedure for that kind of offense back then.
But here's the crucial part, right?
Right.
What happened during that 2006 arrest?
This is where it gets really interesting, and you see how he slipped through the cracks earlier. Back in 2006, when they arrested him for the theft, they took his fingerprints and a blood sample, standard procedure.
Okay.
But Li had conveniently cut his right hand just before the arrest, so they couldn't get a full, clear set of fingerprints, just partials.
A cut. Convenient indeed.
And he also told the police back then that he'd only arrived in Ulagai in 2006.
Creating an alibi for the 2005 murder.
Exactly. The combination of the incomplete prints and his claim about his arrival date meant that, at the time, he wasn't seriously considered for Peng Yulian's murder. He flew under the radar.
Until 2010, when they reopened everything.
Right. As part of the new push, they decided to retest all relevant blood samples they had on file, including Li Xiaoquan's from that 2006 theft arrest. They sent it off to Beijing again.
And this time?
This time, bingo! The DNA results came back. Li Xiaoquan's DNA was a perfect match for the semen sample recovered from Peng Yulian's body 5 years earlier.
Wow, finally.
Undeniable proof. And to seal it, they now had a full set of his fingerprints from his more recent interactions with the system, or perhaps taken again upon the DNA match. Those full prints matched the partial print found on the telephone cord at the original crime scene.
So the cut hand back in 2006, that was deliberate. He knew they'd take prints.
It certainly looks that way. A calculated move to obscure his identity. Chilling level of foresight.
So they had him. Where did they find Li Xiaoquan?
Police acted fast. They tracked him down to a remote ranch, found him literally outside stacking hay, pitchfork in his hand.
And did he resist?
Apparently not. Faced with the evidence, he confessed. Just confessed everything.
What did he say? What was his version of events?
According to the interrogation transcripts, he confirmed the date, July 3rd, 2005, around 9 p.m., claimed he was heading into town, supposedly to fix his farm truck.
But he went to the bathhouse instead.
Yes. He'd been there before, knew the place, found it closed for renovations, just Peng Yulian inside. She told him to leave, naturally, tried to push him out. He forced his way in.
She screamed?
She screamed, but nobody heard or nobody came. It was isolated. He grabbed the nearest thing, the telephone cord, and strangled her.
And then the rest. Did he admit to it all?
He did. Admitted raping her after strangling her. Said he wasn't sure if she was actually dead, so. He went to the kitchen, got the knife, and cut her throat, quote, just to be certain.
Just to be certain. God.
Then he calmly washed his hands, put the knife back, searched her room for money, any valuables, and the underwear.
The calmness is what's so disturbing. No panic described.
None mentioned in the reports of his confession, just cold, methodical actions after the initial violence. It's hard to fathom that level of detachment.
So the outcome?
He was convicted of murder, rape, and robbery. Given the brutality and the multiple crimes, he received the death sentence.
A grim end to a grim story. It really makes you think about the ripple effects, doesn't it?
It really does. This one act of horrific violence.
Huh?
It didn't just end one life.
No. You have Peng Yulian, 39 years old, a single mother trying to make a better life for her son, killed in the most brutal way imaginable.
Then there's Lao Wang, the boiler worker, just doing his job, seeking his wages, and he dies from the sheer shock of what he discovered. An innocent bystander, essentially.
And even Li Xiaoquan himself. He was only 23 at the time. Yeah. He chose this path of extreme cruelty and ultimately faced the maximum consequence for it, a wasted life built on destroying others.
It's also a really painful reminder, isn't it? Especially for women living alone, single mothers like Peng Yulian, people working late shifts or closing up shops by themselves. Safety can feel so fragile sometimes. Predators, they don't always need a complex reason. Sometimes it's just opportunity and malice.
A truly sobering thought. We can only hope that Peng Yulian, after all this, has found some measure of peace.
Let's hope so.
Well, thank you for joining us on this really intense deep dive into the sources surrounding the silent horror of Inner Mongolia. It was difficult but important to understand.
Agreed. These stories need to be told, need to be examined.
If you found this exploration compelling, even though it was tough, Please do subscribe to our channel, China True Story. We cover a whole range of topics, true crime like this, social issues, urban legends, cultural insights.
Yeah, we've got more deep dives lined up, and we're already working on the next one, so definitely stay tuned.
And hey, if you have your own true stories, or perhaps strange things you've come across here in China that you think would make for a good deep dive, please reach out. We'd genuinely love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Your stories could be our next exploration.
All right, that's all from us for this session. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye, everyone.